And welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Framework Podcast. I'm your host, Jamie Hopkins, and joined with my new co-host, Ana Trujillo Limon. Excited to be here today and talking to somebody. Really, it's the first time I've really gotten the pleasure to take time and talk to you. But I know Ana's known you for a while, and we follow each other, I think, on like 16 different social media platforms. So even though we haven't spent a lot of time together, I do feel like I know you already. So really excited to have you on the show here. It's good to see you too. It's not in real life, but I love seeing people, even though Zoom can be a little bit draining. But Luis, it's great to see you on the show today.
Thank you very much, Jamie. It's my pleasure. I feel like I know you in person, even though we haven't met yet. Hopefully one day soon. Jealous of your hair, by the way.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. Like I went to I told somebody the story last night. I went to a Thai restaurant and I sat down and the server comes up to me and she was awesome. She was so much fun that night. But she comes up and she says Pantene Pro V, and like I literally like the first thing she said, she didn't say hi. She just came up and said that, and I was like, oh man, does she not speak like English? I'm not going to be able to order. I that was my first thought, because like that word is not a normal word like that I hear, and like it, and then I was like halfway through this thought, I was like, oh, literally she's asking if I use Pantene Pro V for my hair, and then I was like, oh no, I'm more of a Paul Mitchell guy. I don't actually use Paul Mitchell. But
did you give her a hair flip? Did you know?
Yeah, well, she actually did ask if she could touch my hair, and she did. So my server did touch my hair at the restaurant, and it was it's a weird thing. People actually just come up sometimes from behind and touch my hair that I don't know. It's a whole thing. Yeah, I don't know. Like I would never feel that urge to anyone in the world, right? And it actually happens with a good degree of regularity right now. Well, we did not come on the show to talk about my hair. It's already too long of me talking about that. So, what we love, I usually ask people at the start, give me the 60 seconds of who you are, what you do. We'll go into your story and a couple icebreaker questions too. But just kick us off for those who don't know you. Who are you?
My name is Luis Rosa. I'm the founder of Build a Better Financial Future, which is a fee-only financial planning firm. Virtual, but currently based out of Pasadena, California. Born and raised in Dominican Republic, and I came to the U.S. when I was 11. I had to learn English, and I lived in New York most of my adult life, and then I got into the financial services industry right out of college, and the rest is history, as they say.
Well, this is going to be a fun story because you dropped some big facts on us right there at the beginning. You know, it's. We'll get to all those. One thing, so from the Dominican, I always ask people, "What's your favorite food?" or "What comes to your mind from food?" So, do you have a Dominican thing that you love? What's the one that mango or whatever? Is that Dominican? Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, mango is basically mashed green potatoes. They mash the green plantains as we do mash the potatoes, and then you can have them with like sauteed red onions, and some people use like fried salami, fried cheese, and fried eggs, which is kind of like a staple in the Dominican Republic. One of my favorite dishes is actually yuca, which is kind of like a root, cassava, I guess. And my mother, she boils it and then puts the sauteed red onions and avocado. I eat avocado every day. That's like my favorite food in the world. So you can put avocado probably on anything and I will eat it.
I love yuca, the fried yuca fries. That's what I miss most about Miami.
Oh, yeah.
Ana, do you make fried yuca too?
No, I don't. I just get it where they can make it good, because I tend to mush it up and it's not as good when I make it. So I stay away from it. So you're vegan, right, Luis?
For the most part, every once in a while I would have some fish, but my day-to-day is vegan. Yeah.
That's interesting. Sorry, Jamie, how did you decide to become a vegan?
Yeah, so, when I first entered the financial planning profession, I started working for a CFP professional and a CPA that were partners. And the CFP was vegan at the time. And, we were just always going out with clients, going out to eat. So I just went along for the ride and got exposed to this new world. So I just learned about it. And yeah, I'm not a picky eater, so I was like, hey, I could try anything. And I liked it, and I just kind of ran with it and evolved from there. I've tried so many different variations of it, from like just vegetarian, still eating dairy, to vegan. I've done like the raw vegan, which is like eating nothing cooked. I did that for 60 days straight. Lost like 30 pounds. It was like eating a whole bunch of leafy greens and nuts and seeds. Yeah, but now recently I've been mostly vegan day to day, with the occasional like piece of fish or something.
Yeah, maybe I'm training for a marathon, and my running's going fine, but I'm about 20 pounds heavier than the last time I ran a marathon, and I'm not losing weight. So maybe I just need to eat grass and leaves for a while. And
Yeah, go raw vegan. I think you lose about a pound a day.
Is that just because you don't eat?
No, yeah, I was actually eating plenty. I mean, I had 20 pounds to lose. I was definitely overweight at the time. But yeah, I feel like you're just, everything that you're eating is not cooked. So the body just, I don't know, optimizes it. And yeah.
Yeah, and my body's clearly not optimizing the Chick-fil-A and fried food that I eat at this point.
Yeah,
so.
You don't look like you have 20 pounds to go.
Yeah. It's funny. People, like, my wife says it, and she's probably just being nice, but she's like, when I look at you, I don't notice that you gained 20 pounds, and I feel like she might just being nice. But when I look at photos, I don't really see it on myself, right? Like, I'll look at a photo then and now, and I see my hair, but the rest of me seems not too different. But I literally weigh 20 pounds more than the last time I ran a marathon, and it's a lot of weight to carry for 26 miles. My biggest issue.
Straight hair weight.
I think so.
Could be. I'll find out.
I think
so. Well, this is fun. So, first one, another question we always ask on the show, which I love, is what's your first money memory?
My first money memory was, I remember my grandfather growing up in the Dominican Republic. He always used money as a tool to help others. And I just remember as a kid, like every time like somebody died, for example, like my grandfather was always there. He was like the original GoFundMe, he was always like, just like going to people and say, hey, such and such passed away, let's gather some money to help them out. So, help the family out. And it was always kind of like always used as a tool. I remember him always just lending people money, most of which never paid him back, but he was just giving that way. And I just remember that, like, it was just kind of like a tool that you can use to improve lives. And so that's my first money memory.
Do you think has it probably shaped the way that you approach money at this point? Do you have a favorite charity that you give back to at this point, or do you go find individuals, right, and give? Like, have you picked that up and carried the torch from your grandfather?
Yeah, I've done it most at the individual level. Like, there's still a connection back to Dominican Republic, especially via my mom. So she's always in tune with like cousins and aunts back home. And there's always somebody that's ill, that somebody died, etc. So consistently there's something like, hey, we need to gather up some money to send such and such. And in terms of if you look at like entities here, we'll talk about it a little bit later, but we started the BLX internship program, which is now a 501c3. So now I'm routing all of my official like taxable deductible things to that for sure.
Yeah, that's part of it, right? You say, it's not why you give, but all of a sudden when you start giving and you're like, well, I gotta make sure that my tax deductions are actually going to work here, right? If I'm doing it's just more efficient.
It's the planner in me. I can't help it.
Yeah, it's a similar thing. My wife was giving to an organization at one point that wasn't. I mean, she cared about the mission. And it wasn't real tied to the organization, but it actually wasn't a 501c3, and I didn't know that. And then I went to do the taxes one year, and I was like, none of this is deduct. Can we just pick a different place that has the same mission? And so we did, and because I'm like, I'm totally good with the giving. Let's just like get a tax deduction for it though too, if we're going to, and you can give more then. And that's always my argument for effective giving is, if you get, 20% back in taxes, we'll give 20% more then, right? If you're just being more efficient with it. So, Obviously family's important to you. When did you said moved to the U.S. at 11, and what was kind of the driver for that, or what was behind that whole experience?
Yeah, we moved to the U.S. I moved here when I was 11 in 1991. Please don't do the math on that. So my father came to the U.S. when he was in 1987. So he came first, and then we followed 4 years later. And we're a big family there. I'm the youngest of 6 siblings. And then you have my grandparents and my parents. And my father came first, and then we had to follow. But the process, like you don't always just get to go at once. There's so much there's money involved. There's a process. So we kind of came in pairs. My mother followed next, and then one of my siblings and I, the younger ones usually, we came second in 1991. The reason behind it was just looking for a better life. The Dominican Republic is beautiful. A lot of people know it for its nice beaches and resorts. But unfortunately, the truth of the matter is there's not a lot of opportunity. There's not much of a middle class. Really, it's like you're either poor or you're rich. And I find that there are people that go from Dominican Republic that are, say, a doctor in Dominican Republic who would then go to New York and drive a cab. And they're actually better off financially doing that and be able to send money back home than staying there and be a doctor, which is insane. But it was just pursuing the American dream. And yeah, we're very glad we did. I mean, every day I'm super happy that that's what happened for me, because I can still go back home, but so many more opportunities here for sure.
Luis, how did that experience coming here as a young child, as an 11-year-old, and how did that kind of shape your career path and eventually get you into financial services?
Yeah, it was quite a bit of a culture shock for me because I went to a neighborhood called Washington Heights in Uptown Manhattan, which was predominantly Dominican. So you could get away with not speaking English there, but it was still, for me as a young kid, I had to leave all of my friends behind, my school, come to a new country, try to learn the language, and then meet new people. So there was always just a drive to do better, right? Like my first main challenge was to learn English. At first, I was like in English as a second language courses. I was taking school all in Spanish. And then eventually, I remember when I was a sophomore, it was like, I took several tests and I was finally like good enough to be in an English class. And then when I graduated high school, I started working at a law firm as a mailroom clerk. And just while I was going to college, and the receptionist there introduced me to the CFP that she knew, which I had no idea what a financial planner was. So when I graduated, I was still looking for work back in 2001, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had a degree in economics. I still didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. There was no financial planning program in my school. We never talked about financial planning in my house. And I just had no idea what one did, right? Or that one existed. So when I got introduced to one, finally, he was looking to grow his practice. And he said, if you want to come on board part-time. So I stayed working at the mailroom from 8:30 to 4:30. And then I would drive down to the Bronx where his office was from like 5:30 to 9:30 or 10 o'clock at night. And then eventually, a few months later, he's like, all right, if you want to come on board full-time, maybe you can help us out doing taxes and mortgages. So I got exposed to a wide range of things that people did financially, from financial planning, investment management, taxes, mortgages, some real estate. There was a point where I even had like a property and casualty license. I dabbled in everything pretty much.
Well, that's really interesting. So, yeah, I mean, that's super interesting, right? Not a lot of people, or even CFPs, right, get into the PNC mortgages, that side of things. What was it? I mean, was it the demographic and the service model there that kind of brought that? Like, is it just that so many people needed help with that? I mean, how did that become part of his practice, right?
Yeah, that's a very good point. I think it was, the service model was created around the fact that, like, not every client had a lump sum of money to invest, right? So it wasn't necessarily a profitable business model to just say, hey, we're only going to do investments. So when I walked in to the practice, they were doing financial planning and investment management. And then they say, you know what, maybe you can get your mortgage license and we can start doing mortgages for our clients, because we find ourselves still calling the bank with them on the phone, like negotiating terms and helping them with the interest rate and decide what kind of rate, what kind of mortgage to get, et cetera. So like, why not just do it ourselves? So then the model became, we charge you like, it was like $300 a year. We'll do your taxes. And then we answer any money question that you have throughout the year. The only thing that we do ask is that eventually when you do a transaction that requires something that we do, like a mortgage or whatever, that you do it with us, and kind of grew from there. So we became kind of like a one-stop shop, and which is a great experience for me because I was able to just do so many different things that ultimately ended up helping me a lot when I became a CFP professional.
And when did you kind of know then that I guess when you went there full time that you wanted to get your CFP too, or were you unsure when you stepped in then? You were like, he's got it. I don't know.
Yeah, I had no idea. At that point, I came in just looking to learn. And I was sitting in client meetings sometimes, especially at first. Like I still didn't grasp the concept of what a financial planner did. I was just going back and forth. Every meeting was different, right? And eventually it dawned on me like, wow, like you help people either solve problems or achieve their goals, right? And I had no idea. I think I probably waited too long to become a CFP professional because it was like 15 years later. So I had the experience for a long time. But yeah, it wasn't my initial intent at all. And just because I was doing taxes, I actually ended up getting my IRS enrolled agent designation first before I got my CFP designation. And then when I moved to Las Vegas, I ended up leaving the firm I was with. And then at that point, I was like, okay, maybe I should get my CFP designation and eventually go on my own.
Yeah, was it? I guess at that point, right? I'm always interested in that, right? You're, 15 years in now, you have experience, you're an enrolled agent. What was it that appealed about getting the CFP? Was it did you look at that as like a client thing that they looked at you as more trusted, or was it you felt, personally that you wanted to have it and represent yourself as a CFP professional?
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. I think that I've always looked at the designation as something that is like the highest bar, right? And it was like I was always just so impressed. Every time I met somebody that had those 3 little letters after the name, I was like, wow, like they're a CFP, And it really called me, right? And I also realized, I started thinking, what is the bare minimum to be able to call yourself a financial advisor, right? And that could be whether it's like a Series 7, which, I got the Series 7, the Series 6, 63, all that stuff. And I was like, well, if you just do that, then you're just like everybody else, right? So I noticed that in terms of numbers, like CFP designation professionals were a minority in a sense, right? When you look at the hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people that call themselves financial advisors. So I was intrigued by it. So I went for it.
Luis, I think it was last year, we did a joint event with FPA Latino and Alpha where we kind of were introducing some of the students to the financial planning profession. You talked a little bit about some of the barriers, to getting your CFP and things people should know about. And then in your podcast, you also talk about, the unpaid internships, how those were kind of not really an option for you. And so how did all of that kind of play into you establishing the BLX internship? Tell us a little bit about that and that journey.
Yeah, it's the good thing that you bring up, because I do remember when I was growing up, I was in high school. I'm 6'4", and I was 6'4" in high school. And I remember all the coaches, I wasn't good at any sport, but I had height, right? So all the coaches wanted me on the team just because they felt like, all right, this guy's tall enough, we can teach him to do something, right? Well, even if it was just rebounding, whatever, right? I didn't need to be a center. But it was always okay, if you join our team, you have to stay after school for practice, which was several hours. And I couldn't afford to do that. It was always I have to go to work, because in my household, it was my parents, they never even graduated 8th grade, so they always worked jobs that were just straight up just getting paid, and that's it. There were no benefits. They never had any type of other means other than the paycheck that they brought home. So they told me from early on, we can only provide you with the roof over your head and food on your plate. Anything else that you want, the Jordan sneakers, whatever, you have to go out there and get it yourself. So I was I have to work. And I also, from a very early age, not only did I have to work to get those things, I also had to put money back into the household. So I've been paying, unofficial rent in my house since I was a very young kid. Like, oh, it's pretty much like half of whatever I made. I was like, just give it to my mom. And I remember that later on when we started talking about the BLX internship program was last year when the murder of George Floyd happened. Sean Tedlaska called Emlyn and he said, hey, what can I do? I'm thinking of maybe I can just get an intern or something. And then he's like, let's talk to Luis about it. And then also Chloe Moore. And then we said, why don't we just create a program instead? Because I noticed that there were a lot of people that were very interested in helping and they didn't know how, right? Especially white men, which are sometimes vilified to some degree, right? Just because they happen to be a white man. And it's completely off because there's so many people that I know that are white men that are completely for the cause and want to help people. They don't know exactly how, right? But they want to help. So we're like, hey, here's a problem that we noticed. People have an access issue to get into this industry. I remember myself, I guess I was lucky enough to have somebody introduce me to a CFP, but typically it comes in from the sales side. Most people that I know, like my nephew went to a large school and he got an internship with one of the large wirehouses, and he ended up just like being told to sell life insurance ultimately. Like, hey, here's 100 names, make a list of all your friends and family. He didn't really get exposed to the industry. And he ended up not joining any financial planning program or anything like that. He's in a completely different field now. So we're like, all right, there's an access issue. What are some of the barriers? Like Chloe had to wait tables while she was in college. So we were like, all right, so we know it's a money thing. I couldn't afford to have an unpaid internship. So those ideas came about from there. Say, all right, so let's require that firms that participate pay a very minimum of at least $15 an hour, which is not astronomical, for 8 weeks during the summer. And again, it's really not a big ask, right? And that's how it came. Yeah, and now it's been very successful, and we're looking to grow our numbers for the next cohort.
No, the unpaid internship stuff is, it's such a, I don't know, it's a very tough topic when you talk to like these big companies that have been doing it forever, and I don't think they get it. To be honest, right? I have a good friend of mine. He got really vocal on social media probably last year about it, and he had one of the largest, companies in financial services actually reach out to his employer to tell him to take down the post about ripping on kind of unpaid internships, right? And I was like, wow, and like that's terrible. Like, a lot of people, as you said, like, you grow up and you can't afford to go work and not get paid, right? It's, to me, it's a very ridiculous thing. Like, if you can't afford to pay somebody, then you shouldn't be taking work from them, especially in the financial services world, right? Like, it's not like this is a world where there's no money in the firms, right? Like, That's always a thing that bothers me. It's like, people are like, oh, what's the experience? I'm like, you're a Fortune 50 company. I think you can pay interns $20 an hour, right? Like, and so, yeah, it's, I hope that changes, and I don't think it's good for companies either. I asked somebody one time, we were on a show, and I forget who it was, but I was like, I did an unpaid internship, right? I had the, enough, and I was working then hanging gutters too, but I did an unpaid internship, and it was part-time, and to like get experience. But I remember at the end they were kind of like, oh, well, if you want to come back later. But I just remember leaving being like I don't want to go back there, right? Like, I was just thinking about like leaving that place and like never was thinking about going back there, right? Like, I feel like if you don't pay somebody, like, why would you want to work there long term? And I think sometimes places do that. Then like, well, we don't keep anyone. I'm like, we didn't pay anyone. Like, why would anyone want to stay at a job where their first experience was not getting paid by you? Like, that doesn't really make sense, right? Like, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, they're like, hey, it's good. It looks good on your resume, so.
Yeah.
That's not
enough. We had Emlyn on before, and he talked about the program too. But it's probably been, that was right when I think it was launching, right? So to tell us, like, what's the size, scope, what's the impact right now, what's the goals, it's probably getting bigger in your mind than even at the start, right? As you said, it started with, well, somebody might hire an intern, and then all of a sudden it's growing. There's
Definitely
support.
Yeah, so we ended up having 26 participating firms. which took on 36 interns in total. Some firms took more than one, like Abacus Wealth was one of them. Shout out to them. And the great thing about it was that we ended up getting 16 of those interns placed in jobs, a variety of full-time and part-time, or an extension of the paid internship. Like I myself hired my intern. He's a senior in college now, so he's going to stay on with me part-time until he graduates. And it's been super successful. We just finished the round of exit interviews with the firms and the interns, and the feedback that we've gotten has been amazing. I'm very happy to see that we were right in terms of the fact that we were, excuse me, we were always told by firms that they didn't know where to go in terms of accessing the talent pipeline. And with this program, one of the feedback that we've gotten a lot from firms like, wow, that it was like really good candidates. So much so that we hired them. You know, some firms didn't even have an existing role that they were looking, and they just like, this person was so great, we're just gonna create one and keep them on. And to me, that was so validating, you know, and then combine that with interns just reaching out and say, hey, we never would have had this opportunity had it not been for this program. They're super thankful. So now what we're looking to do is, the original goal was to place 100 interns. So we ended up with 36. So now we still want to go for that 100 goal, you know, so we just need help with the awareness of it and more firms signing up for the program. And we're a 501c3 now as well. So there's plenty of ways to help. You know, one of them is taking on interns. Another one could be just writing a check and contributing to the cause too, because we plan on doing things later on like scholarships for like the CFP coursework and things like that.
So what's the website? How do we get there?
It's blxinternship.org.
So I guess on here, well, one, I'll make a contribution when I get off, because one, you gave me time, so I should at least give back on there. And I'll say, I know I talked to Emlyn about it before. I guess I never got around to it, but I'll commit us absolutely to 2 paid internships out of this next time. So you got 2 right here today. So
that's amazing. Thank you.
100%. So. Definitely in, and I'll follow up with we actually brought on somebody to run this whole program now here for like bringing in our interns, and we don't do unpaid here, and that I love that about the kind of a core value that Ron's always had about that too. So it's easy then to when we are here on the same page, I don't have to go convince anyone. But Dr. Julie Raggets, I don't know if you've ever met her, but she came in, and Anna knows her a bit even before she joined, and she's running that. So I'll make sure that we're part of this and committed to it, and it's important. And I appreciate all of you for kind of driving this. And I know it's taken, it's always one of those things, right? These missions take time away from building your business and your life too. So the saying thanks to you on it's always important when I have the opportunity.
Thank you. Yeah, and we had a lot of support, which we're very thankful for. Like NAPFA was huge in that, just getting the word out and giving us access to resources. And then a lot of people that volunteered their time and effort, and we're super grateful for that. And we just want to keep growing the program. I think there's something there for sure. So, when I look at the numbers, I was looking at the CFP board's numbers as of December 31st of 2020, and Black CFP professionals compose 1.68% of all CFP professionals, and Latinos were 2.46%, and people that consider themselves biracial were 0.028%. And I feel like minorities, right, Black and brown, are typically the largest number by percentage on the wrong things, right? Incarcerated, financial literacy, and then the small numbers where it matters, right? Like in the wealth gap, for example. So part of my mission is kind of like the 2-prong approach, where I want to help more Black and brown CFP professionals come into the business, right? Because I can't service them all, just to reflect better the population, right? And then also I want to help close the wealth gap just by educating the general public, which is one of the things I do in my podcast. And I also have just an initiative, it's called Latin Excellence, which just want to promote awareness about the racial wealth gap, and just help individuals themselves just get more information, even if they're not working with a financial planner. When you look at the numbers, that 12 cents per dollar of white wealth is already, like attributed to like black and brown families. There's a little bit of difference. Hispanics do a little better than blacks, but yeah, there's still a huge wealth gap in this country. So we need to help from both ends, right? Get more people in the industry and then get more people educated.
Absolutely. I love this concept of everybody's talking about DEI stuff, but you, Luis, and you, Jamie, all are doing something about it, which is really exciting to hear you all talk about that. But Luis, you talk about in your podcast like the connection between health and wealth and having like a positive health net worth type of thing. How does the health aspect connect with these types of low numbers specifically for the Latino community on how does health play into wealth, and how we can't build both, right? We're having a hard time building both and holding on to that type of stuff. We have a lower life expectancy. We suffer from like degenerative diseases at higher rates. So can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, that is a great point. I always say that health is wealth. And you're right. I think that black and brown people usually have, certain degenerative diseases and things that just place them at a disadvantage to begin with, right? And when you combine that with the lack of financial literacy and access to things, it really is a recipe for disaster. And I think that, there are times where maybe just because of cultural norms, we might be used to eating a certain kind of way. And I think moving away from that, not like losing your roots, right? But like I remember growing up, like I always ate rice, beans, and meat every day. Like that was like a staple, right? Or mango, right, Jamie, in the morning. But eating all those things every single day can't possibly be good for you, right? Just carving it all up all day long between rice and plantains, right? So yeah, I'm still attached to those things, but I think if people are open-minded enough to just find ways to improve themselves, because what good is all the money that you're gonna accumulate if you can't enjoy it anyway, right? So we gotta have that balance, and that's one of the things that I feel like I took from growing up, seeing my grandfather help people. I was like, all right, money, it's not good just for the sake of having it. It has to be used as a tool. You can use it to help others. You can use it to improve your own life as well. And that includes health, maybe allocating some of your budget to eating different kinds of foods that make you, just more optimized in general. So that you have more energy and you can go out there and make more money.
Right. Oh yeah, that whole cooking stuff, that's been a lifelong battle. It's like, how do I make enchiladas healthy? Like, how do I not fry the tortillas? Like, so I've tried to, pride myself on being the fat food Chicana and trying to, healthy things up a little bit. But that's a good point.
I like that. I could see that as your own brand already.
Right? Yeah, there you go. Chicana. Fat food Chicana. That's who I am now.
I like that.
Yeah, I have a lot of like my stepfather's like German, and so that whole side, like my grandfather on that side, right, like ate donuts and sausages like every day, right, like lived to 94, but it's like a big thing, right? Like people are always like talk about like the hot dogs or something taking 7 minutes off your life or something, and I'm like, I think back and like the amount of sausages I have eaten, I probably should already be dead. like yeah, I don't even know if I'm here anymore. That's
you got your genes.
Yeah, but I think some of that, right? I mean, the whole cultural stuff. It's funny because like we eat Scrapple too, and I don't know. Have you ever had Scrapple?
No.
I don't think I have.
Okay, so Scrapple is a very like, I guess, kind of Lancaster, Dutch, Pennsylvania food. So it's it's literally like kind of a minced pork that's. I mean, the texture is very weird. I mean, it's like kind of like a pate, but it's like made with all the leftover scrappings. Like the stuff that you wouldn't use for sausage, right? So think about that, right? There's the stuff that's left over that they make sausage with, and then whatever's left over that, they make something called Scrapple. And it's funny when people come to like Pennsylvania, and it's really just like there's this northern Maryland and eastern Pennsylvania area that eats it, and like you fry it, right? And we eat it all the time. And like, man, this stuff's got to be so bad for you, but I love it, and my kids love it. So I have 5, 3, and 2-year-old that all eat fried Scrapple for breakfast on the weekend. So that culture thing on my side staying intact too. I've already conditioned another generation to eat terrible fried pork products.
Just continuing tradition. That's all. Tradition's important.
There you go.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your planning practice today too. We didn't get into that all that much, but who are you serving, and maybe tell me something interesting. Maybe not a lot of people know about it. Like, do you pride yourself on anything that you think you're doing really well, and you say, I'm pretty good at this.
In general or in my practice?
It's your story, your times. You can pick whatever you want.
Do both.
Cool.
Did you get good at rebounds yet?
Well, yeah, no, it's funny because I tell people I'm a 6'4" Dominican that doesn't play baseball. Just a waste of height, altogether. Normally, yeah, people would really kill to have 6'4", and then be able to get really good at baseball, right? And one of the ways of making it out of the island, right? But in my practice, I'm a solo practitioner. I launched my firm. I filed for it when I was in Nevada back in September of 2019, but the process takes quite a bit. So I actually ended up getting approved April 16th of 2020. So I launched a financial planning firm in the middle of a pandemic, basically. So that was fun. So I've been at it for over a year now. I just made my first hire, which was my intern, part-time. And I'm just slowly but surely growing. I work primarily with individuals and couples that are still in the building phase of their lives, usually 30s, 40s, and 50s. I do have some retirees. I don't have a niche per se, but I find that there are some personal characteristics that I kind of attract, and those are the kinds of people that are still in the building phase of their lives, very dynamic lives, career changes, job changes, sending kids to college, buying homes, things like that. And they just want somebody that can just lead them along the right path. And they're not people who do it themselves, right? They're like, we need you to handle this for us. Let's help us make good decisions, right? Here's what we got. And then what can we do? So what do I do? Something unique, that I do very well. I think, one of the things that I get all the time, and people always tell me that I make them feel better because I'm always smiling. It's not a conscious thing. So I don't know if that's a skill or not, but it's one of the things that people tell me, like, you're always smiling, like, and immediately they just have to smile back and feel better no matter what. So a little secret power.
I think that's a pretty important power, right? Because, like, I think you're right. Like, when somebody smiles at you, right, like, it does something to your brain, right? And you actually feel better. Yeah. So, like, Philadelphia, we don't smile at each other, though. It's just the whole thing, right? You just look at somebody and you know that, hey, we're not going to talk right now. We're just going to keep on going.
Always smile in Colorado. We wave in the mornings.
That's nice.
Yeah, Omaha is actually too much of that. When I come out here, I'm always like, I need to leave because everyone wants to say hi to me and wave and ask me how the weather is going to be that day. And I don't know. Like, I didn't look at it. It's, I don't carry umbrellas or coats. I'm going to wear the same thing no matter what's happening outside. And so the weather's a big change for you, right? So you grew up, right, mostly in New York, and what got you to move? I mean, I don't actually want to ask about the weather. It just triggered you moved across country.
Yeah, my wife is a recruiter. She was working in New York as a recruiter, and then she wanted to pursue her passion of nutrition. And she decided to become a registered dietitian nutritionist. And part of that involves doing a 1-year internship via a school. So you have to kind of get accepted to a program. And she chose the University of Nevada, Las Vegas as her top choice, and she got in. So we were like, all right, I guess we're moving to Vegas. And it was supposed to be just like a 1-year thing for her to finish school, and then we would kind of figure out what to do from there. But we ended up liking Las Vegas a lot. even though we don't gamble, but it really is, before that, I only thought about casinos and the strip, but like there's actually a city around it and people live there and there are hospitals and schools. So we really did like it. And I said to her, if I survive the first summer there, then maybe we could consider staying longer term, because she got a job offer immediately after she finished her program from one of the hospitals that she did an internship. And we stayed 5 years in Las Vegas. And then when the pandemic happened, we were like, why don't we just go all the way west? We always found ourselves just driving to California. Some days we would get up early and do like a day trip, like 6 a.m, head out to Newport Beach, lay out for a few hours, go grab something to eat and drive back to Las Vegas same day, and we find ourselves doing that very often. So we're like, we should just go live there. And we just did. So I'm here in Pasadena, and the weather is like so much nicer than Las Vegas. And it's just lovely. I do miss the no state income tax in Nevada, but not everything's about money, right?
No, I like UNLV a lot. I don't know why, I'm gonna draw a blank on her name, but I saw a concert there, and actually I saw 2 concerts there. I saw Styx, but they were like, not actually the headliner, and I forget the other person that was there. But so we have somebody on our team, Brian Money and I did 15 straight days in Vegas at a conference one time. So State Farm.
Wow.
Ran their
And you still
national
married?
conference there. Yeah, still married. And so what they did is they have 18,000 agents, and the spouses come too. So they bring like 38,000 people total or something through this conference. Now, nowhere hosts 38,000 people at once, right? Like, you can't do that. And so they run it the exact same conference, 3 days, 1 day off, 3 days, exact same conference, day off, 3 days. And they have the same closing party. So Styx played the State Farm closing party 3 times in a row.
Wow.
And so Brian and I didn't even know we were there. Now, not only that, I did the same presentation 3 times every 3 days, 3 times. So, like, that presentation, I was really good at the end of it.
Yeah.
I was not really excited to give it for the 27th time in 15 days in Vegas. So after that, I was not looking to move to Vegas, but I did really like, I went to the UNLV campus 3 times, and I did really like the school there, so that was cool.
And my little nephew's heading off to UNLV. Well, he wants to. I don't know if he's actually, that's his number one choice. He's a senior. He just started senior, and he wants to go into hospitality, so he loves the campus too. I've never seen it. We'll see. Maybe at Excel.
Nice. Hey, it's a good excuse to go to Vegas. I know you're going there for Excel, right? But still.
Yeah. I love college campuses in general. It's like one of the places where, and it's almost any campus. I don't know what it is about campuses, but like when I walk on there, I was telling somebody this last week, it's like the place that I immediately feel at home for. And, I've been a professor now for 11 years, so there's obviously a connection there between me and colleges. But, when I walk into financial service buildings, and I don't have the same feel that I like, hey, this is my home, this is where I belong. But when I walk on campuses, I'm like, I could just never leave. Like, I'm totally fine with that if I just lived here forever. And I don't know, I love it. So where in California did you guys move to, and how's that been? And are most of your clients out there, or are you just taking clients everywhere?
Yeah, I'm in Pasadena, California. Most of my clients are actually still back east. The people that followed me when I went on my own are mostly from New York, and then some have retired somewhere along the coast, like Georgia, North Carolina, and Florida, right? But yeah, so I have been doing virtual meetings for about 5 years now. So like when the pandemic happened, I didn't need to figure anything out in terms of technology. I already had my, everything going, all the systems in place. So a lot of the times I find myself working very long days just because I try to be available like on East Coast time, but then, at 2:00 Pacific time, I'm not going to stop working, right? So it turns out to be a super long day. So I'm in Pasadena. I do establish a physical presence wherever I physically live. So I do have acquired some clients in California since I've moved. Haven't met them in person yet, but yeah, it's definitely happening. But I see myself staying here for the long term. And Pasadena is great. I love it. It's a very walkable city, and there's a lot of greenery where I am, but it's also like very close to like their old town, Pasadena, where you have all the shops and bars, restaurants, etc. So I get a little bit of both, and I don't have to deal with LA traffic. So I'm enjoying it so far.
I give Tyrone the same thing though. It's like, moving out to San Diego, it's a personal choice, man.
Oh,
So
yeah.
when people call you at 7 o'clock Eastern time, it is what it is now. You can always move back to Jersey,
That's right.
Well, I know we want to be respectful of your time, Anna. I think you might have had one more question.
Yeah, go for it.
That's my only job here, right? Is to keep us on track and move us on. I don't do anything else. So.
No, I actually asked all my questions, Luis.
All right.
Awesome.
Well, then I'll close out with my final two, which is this one I like, which is if and I do variations of this one, which is if people look back at you, Luis, and they say, what did he stand for? Like, what was his legacy? What do you want to be viewed as, right? If people describe you, right? Somebody says, oh, you had him on your podcast. And I'll be like, oh, yeah, he's really tall, but he's, like, terrible at sports. Like, but what is it you actually want to be kind of known for and recognized as?
Yeah, definitely not for sucking at baseball. Yeah, one of the things I want to be remembered or known by is somebody that helped move the needle, right? I want people to look back and say, wow, like there's so many more Black and brown CFP professionals as a result of the work that Luis did, and there's so many. I mean, I don't know that the wealth gap in any way could be attributed to any of the work that I did, but I like to help on that front as well. Just like so many more people aware of it to begin with, and be empowered with more tools and knowledge to just do better for themselves. So moving that needle, yeah, just I think things are moving in the right direction. I am happy to see of the changes that are happening in the industry, but they're slow, and it's just it's like 0.00 something, right, every single year. I want to put the foot in the gas in that, and get the at least into the double digits here.
Well, yeah, I mean, thanks for that. I mean, I'll get on my own soapbox for a half a second. Yeah, I think it's moved too slow, right? When we go back and look, 11, 12, 20 years ago, and people were talking about it, and you said those percents earlier, I mean, it's all less than 3%, and it's terrible, right? I mean, and so it does need people like you and, Emlyn, and, it needs people like me too to step up and push things forward and be cognizant of it and purposeful. And I think that's one thing. I think that one of my feelings has always been I don't think there's a lot of malintent. I mean, there are people with malintent, but I think a lot of it, right, just becomes it's the systems, and you don't think about it, you don't become purposeful on it, and then the needle doesn't move, right? And so I appreciate everything you're doing, and pushing this forward, as you said, making that impact and difference. So I really appreciate that. Best ways to find you? I know we did the internship link earlier, but where else can they find you personally? Follow you on social, all those fun things.
Yeah, blxinternship.org for the BLX internship. Buildabetterfinancialfuture.com for my own firm. onmywaytowealth.com for the podcast, also available on all major podcasting platforms. LatinExcellence.com, that's LatinXCELLENCE.com to follow the movement. I am on Twitter at Luis_F_Rosa, and also on Instagram, Luis_F_Rosa.
Well, I love it. So everyone, check it out. Check out the podcast. Donate. Help change the world. And I gotta ask this though. Do you like to go by Luis or Luis? Because you've done it. I know it's back and forth there. I think when you did I was like, do you have a preference?
No, I introduced myself as Luis just because I think it was one of the things that I learned when I first came to the U.S. to kind of assimilate, right? Instead of Luis, it's just like Luis and not stand out. Like some of the things you didn't want to stand out on. I already was struggling not knowing English, right? So I tried to fit in somehow. So I introduced myself as Luis, but I've become very used to it because in Spanish it is Luis, right? And then when I came to the West Coast, most people try to pronounce it the way it would sound in Spanish. So I'm used to both. So
Yeah.
I don't have a preference actually, but I do introduce myself as Luis. It's a
Yeah.
bad habit.
Well, it's so there's a. I'll do one more mini story here. So I hung gutters with a guy who's Lewis, same spelling, right? And one time we were going to a job and he was going first, and they said, "Oh, Lewis is coming," and he showed up, and they actually called back to the place and said some Hispanic guy showed up. I was waiting for a Lewis. And so, like, literally, I mean, it's terrible, right? But I mean, that's literally like so I totally get the, assimilating the name, that pressure, because I mean, it's actually real, right? Like somebody didn't want this person on the job site because they thought they were getting, whoever Lewis was going to be. And they were like, that is Lewis.
Right.
And yeah, that's that's who's coming to do the work. And if you don't want them, nobody else is doing the work.
Right.
So,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah, those things really do happen. Unbelievable.
Well, hey, this was amazing. Anna, great job. As always, just a couple more of these and then I'm done. You're taking over. So.
I don't think so.
That's it, Anna. It's all yours.
We have to tag team. Well, thanks, Liz, for coming and joining us. This was wonderful to catch up with you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure and an honor. I'm a big fan of you both. And yeah, the fact that I get to be in the same room with you too, yeah, it's highlight of my day. So thank you so much.
Woo!
Yay!
And thank you, everyone else, for listening to this week's episode of the Framework Podcast. Have a great and wonderful day.